The details for the Orb nerfs are here. We just got the Korean patch notes. They'll be getting the update tonight. We'll be able to test out everything there, and we'll most likely get these changes following Thursday for us on Global. It comes with an interesting dev comment, a small crossbow nerf, some staff buffs, some pretty big wand buffs, and all things considered, a pretty small orb nerf. Other than that, a few item fixes and adjustments. And so yeah, let's get into all the details here. So first of all, let's look at what the devs have to say. And that's this right here. Ultimately, they're not so happy with detonation mark causing instantaneous burst damage on bosses, which can cause them to phase skip, skipping certain mechanics because you just deal too much damage at any one point. And that's because with selfless diffusion, you can extend the duration of your detonation mark, and you could do that infinitely. You could store upwards 20 million damage, click detonation mark, and boom. And you have multiple people doing that, and you can instantly phase through certain mechanics, causing the boss to kind of bug out. So the orb nerfs for crossbow is mainly just going to be this and not really impacting their raw damage output. They've gotten barely any changes to their sustained damage. They just now won't be able to store the damage up so much, but just deal pretty much the same amount over time. You can look here on Dagger, there was just some slight bug fixes here along with the mastery. So this actually properly requires you to get to 90 rather than 89 to get the extra critical damage, and be under that to get the evasion. You may note they have actually changed that from 80 to now 90. That's just so you can still get the 80 milestone here and still have the evasion if you choose to. But yeah, right here is that change to selfless diffusion. You may not comprehend exactly what that means, but it basically results in the ability now to only increase the duration of your debuffs by 5 seconds max. Because it's this 0.05 seconds multiplied by 100 is only 5 seconds. So your detonation mark at maximum is only going to last 8 seconds, and then it's going to explode no matter what you do. Therefore, you can no longer store up the damage. But that does not impact whatsoever orb and crossbow combination in terms of raw damage output. And I think some of you may be happy with this approach because what they're doing is actually buffing up the other weapons. Staff is getting some monster damage boosts. So for PvE, from 60% to 80%, from 120% to 160%, from 60% to 90% across these abilities, which is pretty significant, like your focused fire bombs and your fireball barrage. And then Wand comes along with 100% damage boost against monsters for what I believe is Touch of Despair, Corrupted Magic Circle, and the Tevant Wand damage over time effect. Just to quickly go back, there was a longbow fix here which supposedly fixes your flash wave and also your sniping, I believe, from like going up in the air. But those orb nerfs are right here. Basically, Starlight Rush, also known as Stellar Dash, is getting a nerf to its damage boost. So instead of 10% up to 10 times, it'll be 8% up to 10 times. So that is barely anything. And there was a fix here to consecutive use. They've also changed the temporal leap, the cooldown reduction effect, to now only apply to attack and control skills. That means you can't use temporal leap to reduce the cooldown of selfless diffusion since it's a survivor skill. But this is not overly necessary when you're in an endgame group, you have enough cooldown speed already, and you're using deadly markers, so wasn't exactly reliant on that when in a group setting. But as a solo player, not a min-max build, yes, Orb Crossbow has got quite a bit of a nerf due to that. Like in dummy tests, you won't get as much damage back to back if you can't use Temporal Leap to reset Selfless Diffusion if you don't already have a ton of cooldown and buff duration. It does also affect staff, you cannot use it with high focus, so there's another nerf there too. But you will still be able to use it with Hellfire Rain since this is a control skill. So yes, there are some valid nerfs here for Orb, but all of them don't really have that much of an impact at an endgame level when you particularly look at Orb Crossbow. And then there were some slight issue fixes here. This mastery got a slight adjustment, the one that gives you crit. And Time Bomb has been properly fixed so it can stack up and deal its correct amount of damage. Still should be capped at 100,000 hit points. But then the massive nerf to the new Tier 3 Greatsword. This is from the co-op dungeons and it has that insanely busted silence on heavy attack. This is being changed so it will no longer apply to melee and ranged abilities. So it's only going to be used to counter like wand, orb, and staff users. As for that new tier 3 wand, the one that can instantly kill you if you're using like Vampiric Contract and you're attacking somebody in PvP. All those self-heals will cause reflected damage back to you. But this was affected by like buff duration, I believe, and now is being increased to 3 seconds but capped at that. Stats will not be able to increase that effect. The Grand Aelon's bow will properly apply its healing to all party members affected by your Nature's Blessing, which is great, an additional heal over time. The Blood Knight set should properly display its stacks, and a fix to the Mordekaiser's Greatsword here to properly scale with your base damage. There was some then further changes here, like dimensional trials, some of these buffs, and then crafting. If you're into that housing, resource gathering, just some minor changes here, and the Korean Silesium shop purchase options. We don't have this yet, but they have the ability to purchase some extra items with like Solent and then some other ones with Lucent. And this is just a bit of a change and in addition to that, as long as I believe you have Da Vinci's favor. But who knows, we may get that too at some point because we just recently also got the loyalty store, which the Korean server has had for quite a while. And you can always save those loyalty points and hope for some new cosmetics. And then some minor changes here, fixing some appearance items, unusual text, interacting with Celia, some fixes in Battlegrounds, side story, codex, housing, and they have the release of this skin for the Korean server. We already got this one. And there's an event blog here. You can still purchase Mystic Keys, open globes, get lucky bags. This has a chance to give you upwards of 100 million Solent. Oh, and that was it. They don't actually announce the Fortune's Calling event. But Tico did say it was coming for our anniversary. I guess the Korean server's not getting that because their anniversary is actually in December. So we may not even get this event as we've actually just kind of had it where you'd get those things for Mystic Keys. But overall, again, not really a lot is changing for Orb Crossbow. What's actually happening is some huge buffs here to wand abilities, Touch of Despair, Corrupted Magic Circle, and Tevent. 100% increases, which results in 100% increase to the Curse Explosion directly. We'll have to test out how impactful those changes will be, and maybe it might even become competitive on the level that currently Orb Crossbow's at. On top of the fact, Staff is getting a bunch of PvE buffs too, with extra damage increases to their modifiers. This going to 80, this to 160, and this to 90. All pretty big increases that are going to add up overall, and you combine that with the wand buffs, Invocator is looking a ton stronger. So we'll have to look at the actual changes when they're released, do some testing, and figure out where everything lies afterwards. So thanks all for watching. A special thank you to all these channel members, and we'll see you guys around.